Peace, good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your foul player. Wanted to discuss a certain prospect in this draft, which I like a lot, and I'm trying to merit whether, I'm trying to figure out or trying to explain to you whether he's worth a top 10 pick within this draft, namely for the Jets and the Giants. I mean, they're both linebacker needy, more so the Giants. But definitely, I would still mess with him with the Jets. I'm just trying to figure out whether he's top 10 worthy or not. Now, as far as Nakobe Dean from Georgia, if you guys don't know, one of the best linebackers or edge rushers in this draft, Anderson out of Georgia, I think it's Adam Anderson, was suspended indefinitely due to a rape allegation. I think that's a case that's still pending. I think Georgia may have took the initiative and sat him down. I'm not sure how it played out. I think that's how it went down though. In spite of that, Georgia still had a top defense. Now they still had good edge rushers even with him getting suspended, but they still lost a player who's probably better than Nakobe Dean. I had Anderson rated higher than Nakobe Dean because he was a great edge rusher, super strong edge rusher, but he could also cover down the field, which I don't really like my edge rushers to do, but he did have that ability. Now, with him being suspended, Nakobe Dean stepped into the role and kind of became the captain, the real captain of this team. I'm not sure if that role was etched out for him prior to Anderson's fall, but nevertheless, Nakobe Dean stepped into that role flawlessly. I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about the coverage that he had to take up in that championship game, or when he got into his teammate's face for blowing the coverage, and he still made the play for his teammate. I mean, that's stuff that you were seeing from him all year, but it's not that only. Even though I do like the guy that could take charge, especially on defense. I mean, especially as a linebacker. I like my linebackers to be the principal play callers, if you will. But he could do that as well if you put him into that role. I think he'd be doing that second year, like where he'd be the formal captain on most teams as far as on the defense. But there's a lot of good things that he does. I mean, in spite of that, the fact that the only drawback, I mean, he's not an edge rusher and he doesn't have great edge rushing capabilities, but he does have good blitzing capabilities. One thing I do like with him is that he times his blitzes in the gaps really well. He finds these little gaps, he times them perfectly. I can't stand when you do a blitz with five people and everybody just sets off at the same time. Because it makes the job easy for linemen. People fall all over each other in those situations. A lot of times he'll wait. Sometimes wait for a hole to open up. If the hole doesn't open up, sometimes he'll go into like quasi coverage where he'll try to harass the check down if it's a running back coming up the middle. I like that ability. I like the fact that he's kind of like playing with his head on a swivel in a sense, and he's just really at depth. Like there's a lot of good players in this draft too that have that intangible capability that or that intangible quality to them where they're very headsy, very smart players in this draft. I like that a lot. But this is one of them. Um, Now, as far and another good thing that he does, as far as trick plays, a lot of teams that are employing these plays where they're giving it to a running back to throw, or tossing it to a running back where they throw, tossing it to a running back to the edges. He sniffs all these plays out. I know that toss plays and running to the edges are not like the big thing to do in the NFL right now, but it is employed here and there. But I will tell you that when it is employed against Nakobe Dean, he sneaks it out like a beagle. He seeks it out, blasts it, gets behind the line. I also like the fact that he's doesn't overrun plays. A lot of linebackers, when they get a chance to hit a running back behind the line of scrimmage, or when they get a clean avenue at the quarterback, they'll overrun it because they get excited. He kind of tempers down in those situations, and makes sure he gets the contact, which I like a lot. Um, Another good thing with him too is that with the run plays, he's very good at clogging up those gaps too. You need that with a running back. I mean, with a linebacker. I like linebackers where your backfield or your cornerbacks and your safeties are kind of like have the ability to play a little bit lazy in a sense, like or like where they're not overrunning to the left or right because they're watching where their linebackers are going, and especially on run plays. Nakobe Dean is very good at that. I mean, if you keep your eyes on Nakobe Dean throughout the game, I think 17 or he's number 17. You're okay as a cornerback or a safety. So I like that quality of his. Um, as far as coverage, he has that coverage capability, but honestly, like I don't like my linebackers being the I don't like that for when people put a lot of like emphasis on these linebackers that are good coverage guys. Like a lot of times it doesn't pan out in the NFL. Like they just don't do that when they graduate up to the big leagues. So I mean, I don't put a lot of emphasis on that, and I don't like my linebackers covering tight ends. I mean, like I'm gonna put a linebacker to cover Kelsey. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I'd rather have a cornerback on a Kelsey. Kelsey would blow, or Kelsey, along with a lot of other tight ends in this league, will destroy you. You're gonna put that on one linebacker? I don't think so. I mean, like, could he do that in a bind? I think he could, but I've seen sometimes where they put him on receivers too, and he handles himself really well. But as far as like on the sidelines, I've seen a few plays with him, like where he was on the receiver near the edge of the sidelines the whole way, and against big receivers especially, he bullies them. Like he puts them more towards the sideline, where it's where they're now thinking about the sideline and whether they're going to be in bounds. I like that. I don't want you to be to come up with a real fly play or an almost interception. I want you to disappoint them. I want that receiver to think like, well, if the linebackers are doing this to me, like, what are the cornerbacks doing to me? Love it. So he's good at that. Um, but as far as his value being a top 10 guy, um, would I be pissed off if the Jets, who aren't as needy for a linebacker, took Nakobe Dean at 10? I wouldn't. I mean, again, like I mean, I want a another captain on this team or another guy who shows that he's the big Kahuna on this team. We already kind of have that with Mosley, but to add another element to that and maybe potentially, who knows, cut Mosley down the line and not really cry about it. I think that that's a good thing to have. The Giants, I mean, the Giants should be drafting pretty much lineback. I mean, O lineman exclusively. But is it a little bit rich for them to pick at like seven, Nakobe Dean? I kind of think so, especially when the with the need at offensive line that they have. But if they peel back a few spots and they draft Nakobe Dean in the teens, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Now, there was a draft. I can't recall like where. And remember, I can't recall these things because one, I barely study up on these things prior to. One thing I do study up is tape. I look at a lot of tape whenever it's available. I'll watch tape like you see behind me now, which is not really clear. But there was a linebacker that came out in I believe it was 2014, and this was a pretty crappy draft. If I remember correctly, he came out in the Trubisky draft. Um, Trying to look it up now, but he got injured in his. It was a Notre Dame linebacker, and he got injured in the championship game. I think it wasn't a championship game, like in the bowl game. But and that was in the 2016 draft. I'm sorry, and it was Jalen Smith, the linebacker from Notre Dame. When Jalen Smith, who ended up going in the second round with the 34th pick to the Cowboys, when he was coming out of that draft, and but granted, that was a weak ass draft in 2016, or a pretty weak draft. But I thought that Jalen Smith, had he not gotten injured, would have been a top five pick in that draft. No question about it. Um, and that would be on a team that didn't even need a linebacker. That's how much I thought of him. Now, is Nakobe Dean better than Jalen Smith? I think so. I mean, I think Jalen Smith has a little bit better as a coverage guy coming out of college, but Nakobe Dean and Jalen Smith both have that little that I'm the captain of the team kind of thing about them. But Nakobe Dean does all those other things a little bit better, and he's a little bit more of a stronger player. And I think worst case scenario, Nakobe Dean puts on a couple pounds, and he'll be more of a middle linebacker, like which I think he'll be good at that too. But he just doesn't look like that guy that's gonna put on a ton of weight like Edwards from the Bills. Even though I think Edwards from the Bills is still nasty, but is he? To me, he's not like a like a he's lost a lot of his luster as far as like what he was able to do in college, what he was able to do his first year in the NFL versus what he's doing like now. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think Nakobe Dean is better than that too. I mean, like than Edwards of the Bills because I don't see him throwing on that weight. Like you could tell off the rip that Tremaine Edwards was going to throw on like probably a substantial amount of weight. He's already a big guy coming out of Florida State. So I don't know. I'm still kind of like questioning myself. Like a lot of times I do these videos and it's more rants. I'm not trying to like throw up a bunch of flash or impress you with my football knowledge because you probably have a ton more football knowledge than me. Whoever's watching this video, but it's a tough one. I am gonna like if it I do want to do a video down the line as far as Nakobe Dean versus Kyle Hamilton, which I think right now, I mean, like Nakobe Dean to me is the better player, but a lot of people have Kyle Hamilton going top three even. I don't know about that. You know, does Kyle Hamilton blow you away like on a lot of the games you've watched of him? I mean, like maybe I haven't watched enough Notre Dame, but I don't see it. I mean, he's gonna be good. And he has a little bit of that captain thing about him. And these Notre Dame players usually have that clean rep. But is he better than Nakobe Dean? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm gonna watch more tape and maybe I'll come up with another conclusion afterwards. But if you're even considering Kyle Hamilton at the top 10 level and you have both a need at safety and at linebacker like the Jets do, not so much the Giants. The Giants don't have that need at safety as bad, but there's rumors that the Giants are interested in Hamilton. But if the Giants take Hamilton ahead of Dean, I mean, that's a sucker move. I mean, like that to me doesn't make a lot of sense. And the Kobe Dean could, blow me away in the future, but I just don't see it now. But my comparison with Jalen Smith of the Cowboys, remember, I think he was paired up with Sean Lee for a while, and they were like the tandem of linebackers for the Cowboys. I think for a year or two, if I remember correctly. But once Sean Lee dipped, I mean, it's not like the Cowboys were stacked at linebacker, and Yeah, Jalen Smith still does have like a little bit of a injury problem, but when he's been on the field, I mean, did anybody even think of Sean Lee, who's a borderline Hall of Fame player at a linebacker? I don't think so. Another thing too with me is that I don't put a lot of Otis into linebackers or safeties. I mean, to me, it's debatable which position I put more emphasis on, but I think I would lean more to linebacker, and I think that's probably because the Giants and the Jets have been so bereft at talent when it comes to that position. With safety, I mean, it's either one guy at strong safety, one guy at free safety, and you have a chance at drafting either. I mean, and the Giants have had decent safeties and at both strong safety and free safety, but for some reason that the linebackers have eluded them. So there's a good chance for either team, Giants or Jets, to grab a really good one at 10. Now, is there other stuff on the board this year that I would grab ahead of them? Absolutely. I mean, if the Jets were to pass up on Karlaftis and took a Nakobe Dean instead at 10, which I don't think Karlaftis is going to drop down to 10, I mean, I'd be extremely pissed if if the Giants or the Jets took Nakobe Dean instead of a really good lineman, which there are many on in this draft, especially early on. I'm probably going to be a little bit disturbed too, but Nakobe Dean is the business though. He is the goods. It's just that with at 10, it's a little bit rich for me. Really rich. I mean, you'd have to be the mega linebacker for me to even consider you at a top 10 pick. I mean, is he really good? Yeah, he's one of the best I've seen maybe in 3 years, but I don't know. Still doesn't merit it for me. Like, but again, I mean, if one of my teams takes him, especially with a double digit level pick, like 10 and down, like I'm cool with it. But there's just so many other needs there. I mean, like so many other good players that are there. So many players that I'm finding out now that are just dope. I mean, and this draft is a little bit light on linebackers. I'm finding out unless you're like I like coverage like linebackers that are more coverage guys, not outside linebackers like Nolan from Georgia. Guys that could play in the middle or that could cover. There's not like a crazy amount of those. Like the ones I'm liking right now are Nakobe Dean, of course, Chad Muma. I hope I'm saying his name right. Um, Homeboy from Oklahoma, forgot his name. And even those guys, like Muma is just nice, but I mean, I've seen a lot of those guys like come up like these like tackle hungry like middle linebacker guys that graduate to the NFL and are tentative at tackling or get hurt, really early on in their career, and then they're tentative for the rest of their NFL lives. But I don't know, really shaky, but I like him a lot. Still, to me, not a top 10 pick. Let me know what you guys think. And with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I'm out.